people have sort of looked to arts organizations and looked to artists and said, what are we doing? And when artists say, we're going forward, as we have always done in history, the artist is always, the avant-garde, they are always on the front lines. It's always been the case. And so there's something, I think, exciting and galvanizing when people can look to the arts and say, what are we going? We'll follow. We'll stand with you. And I feel a little bit of that energy. And so that's been nice. It doesn't take away from the understanding that we are vulnerable. We're always kind of vulnerable. We're even more vulnerable now. And right. So it's a scary time. It is.
These arts organizations like yours are vulnerable and are being threatened, but it's also so important to recognize that people want to help, that they want to stand up. Welcome to Uptown Voices. From Harlem to the Heights to the northern tip of Inwood, we're here to celebrate our people and together seek solutions for the difficult issues we're all confronting as neighbors. Regardless of what hood you represent, we share the same goal, creating the best community we can, somewhere to enjoy, where we can build our lives and raise our children. We want to thank 181 Cabrini, located on the corner of 181st Street and Cabrini Boulevard, for its generous support for this podcast. It's your neighborhood bistro just steps away from the North Walk of the GWB. Stay tuned for a discount code that you can mention to your bartender or server the next time you visit the restaurant. We also need financial contributions from listeners like you to produce, improve, and expand our content. To contribute, please scan the QR code on the screen or visit www.livingamericana.com. That's living without a G.
Yo, what up, y'all? It's Led Black of the Uptown Collective, and I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural episode of the Uptown Voices podcast. I'm doing this alongside my brother, Octavio Blanco, and this is all about Uptown. It's going to be a weekly deep foray into all the things happening uptown, arts, culture, politics, and introducing you to a lot of the movers and shakers and the people that really make things happen on the ground here in this community. I think it's important sometimes to go beyond what you have on social. So this is an effort to address that. And this is really the brainchild. My boy Octavio really pushed me to do this. So Octavio, could you give the people a little bit of the reasoning behind this?
Yeah, Led, before I give the reasoning, I want to just say how much of a fan I am of yours. I've been
thank you, brother.
Yeah, sure, man. I've been part of your Uptown Collective audience for many years. I found it that you've been helping me and other people stay informed about the issues and the people here uptown, always with good humor and always interesting content. And so I've wanted to connect with you. I'm a journalist by trade, over 30 years as a reporter and an editor for CNN and Consumer Reports. And finally, after all these years, we've been able to link up on this podcast, Uptown Voices, which I think is so important. And we're going to be highlighting, celebrating the people who make Uptown a better place to live, showing a little bit of the behind the scenes of who they are. And, I think that behind the scenes of who the people are making this community better, I think, Led, you are one of those people that are behind the scenes, because Uptown Collective, all about the neighborhood, all about Uptown, Harlem, Washington Heights, and Inwood, just like Uptown Voices is going to be. And you yourself have done a good job of basically being behind the scenes. So I want to give you this opportunity here on Uptown Voices to tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, your raison d'etre for being here.
For sure. I mean, so Led Black, I started the Uptown Collective in 2010. The motto from then was spread love is the Uptown way. And it was a way of shining light on the community, right? A lot of times when mainstream media talks about us, they either talk about us wrong or it's always kind of this they look at us through the eyes of the crack era or some bygone era, right? They're not looking at what Uptown is now. So the Uptown Collective is super important to me, and I think it's important for a lot of people. But I think Uptown Voices is a way to dig a little deeper, to have those meaningful conversations that we need to have, especially in the current age that we live in, with who we have at the pinnacle of power in this country. The war is already being waged in our community, and it's only going to intensify. So I think this is a way of combating that, and also giving you like a real look at the people doing the work, and what that work entails, and what the heavy lifting of community means, right? Community is the answer to our woes, but we really need to come together. I think what happened at the election last year was kind of an eye-opener for a lot of people, that we really need to combat and really to resist, right? So this is about that. It's about having the conversations. It's about celebrating, all the great things that are happening uptown, right? A lot of times people don't realize how much of a great neighborhood this is, how much great people we have here. So it's about showing that. And I think this first episode, I think it's so amazing that we're doing NoMAA, right? So we're going to highlight the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance, which is an organization that's near and dear to my heart. I've been the social media manager for the last few years, but beyond that, they've been doing the heavy lifting, right, of funding the arts and culture. I think sometimes people think that arts and culture is like a nice to have, not as something that's crucial, but it is, especially for our community, because we are a community of artists and hardworking people. So I'm super excited to be going this journey with you and with my community. And it's always been about community. I really do love Uptown right now. And I was born here, raised here. I lived in DR for a little bit, lived other places, but no matter what, I always come back to Washington Heights and to Uptown. And it's about showing love to that community, to that neighborhood, and this part of the world that made me who I am. And I'm glad to be going on this journey with you, like I said, in this community. So let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. And we're not shying away from the issues that they're confronting. Always with the idea of approaching it through the lens of solutions, not just complaints. So we're looking for solutions.
Yeah. And we're not just carping, right? We're looking for solutions and pushing people to think further. You want to tell them a little about donations and how they could help the show?
Absolutely. We can't do this without contributions from our viewers. You're going to see a QR code in the corner of the screen here, which you can scan, and that's going to take you to a contribution site where you can make a contribution towards Uptown Voices. It's going to be helpful for us to be able to elevate our production. We have dreams and aspirations of doing live shows. We have dreams and aspirations of being on location at our various cultural institutions, and we can't do that without contributions from viewers and listeners like you. And we also can't do that without our sponsors. And this pilot season, this first episode of our pilot season, we are lucky to have a great sponsor, 181 Cabrini. It's our neighborhood bistro. Both Led and I are just steps away from 181 Cabrini, and we love it. 181 Cabrini is located right there on that corner of 181 and Cabrini, just steps away.
181 and Cabrini.
Just steps away from the bridge. So, yeah, I love it. Led, you and I were there the other night.
Yeah, and we also met there for the first time. You and I, the first time we met, we had like lunch there, and it's my local bar now. Like, since you and I both live like right around. It's my local bar. I spend a lot of times there. James Lee, the owner, is just an incredible restaurateur. Right, I think he's a great guy. He's super funny, but like the food is on point. The ingredients, he really takes his time to give you the best. He doesn't like slack on that aspect. And it's a place also where I watch the Knicks games, right? So please hit up 181 Cabrini. It is really one of my favorite spots, and it's a place you probably find me on most days, right? So I mean, that sounds crazy because that sounds like I'm a drunk, but I'm not. But yeah, 181 Cabrini.
You're a very responsible drinker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'm watching the games there. 181 Cabrini, pull up. That's my spot. Show them love and tip well.
And order the nachos. Those are on point.
The sangria. No, you don't drink. The sangria is amazing. Everything in it. And you have to try the coconut bread pudding. They got coconut, they got chocolate, and now they got banana, but the coconut, outstanding. So like I said, it's the attention to detail for me. It's a great neighborhood joint. And thank you to James and 181 Cabrini for sponsoring this first episode. And, if you want to sponsor, holla at my boy. You know what I mean? Let's make it happen. You know what I mean? But yeah, without further ado, though, let's get to it. First inaugural episode, Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance, NoMAA. Love y'all. Let's do it.
But before we do that, I just want to say one thing. We're going to have a redemption code at the end of this episode, which you can bring to 181 Cabrini for a special treat. But yeah, as Led said, it's time to get going with NoMAA, Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. Here we go.
Let's go. What up, everyone? It's Led Black of the Uptown Collective, and Uptown Arts Stroll is about to begin. It's Uptown Arts Stroll season, so we brought the good folks from NoMAA over here to talk to us about what we can expect this year. For the sake of full disclosure, I am the social media manager for NoMAA. I love NoMAA. I'm a huge NoMAA fan, and I'm a super fan of these two people we have with us on today. And we have Niria Leyva-Gutierrez, who's the executive director of NoMAA. We also have Martin Collins, who's the Uptown Arts Stroll coordinator. He's an Uptown legend, Uptown OG. And I'm really happy that this is the first one we record, the first episode of Uptown Voices, Led Black and my partner, Octavio Blanco. I'm Black and Blanco, I like to say. But, without further ado, Niria, I want to talk about what you did, right? You came uptown and you really killed it, right? You came at a bad time for the world, right? It wasn't a good time for anyone. And especially for something like, what you did during the pandemic. That was amazing. And NoMAA has only grown, during your tenure. And I want to say that that particular perch you sit on, I've been friends with everyone that's been on that perch. And somehow they always pick these amazing, incredibly smart, dynamic people. And so tell me how you found your way to the role, because you've been doing such an amazing job under really tough conditions, right? This is not easy. And how did you do it? How did you get into this role?
Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having us here, and we love you too. And then we are incredibly honored to be your first guest. So let's start with that. But we also know you love NoMAA, and I think you ask a lot of really interesting questions. I came to NoMAA just before the pandemic, and I came from a very long university career. I'm an art historian. I taught in university art history for several decades. Just various circumstances, universities, collapsing programs, and the arts, as is typical, is sort of taking a back seat to all of the other disciplines, made it so that it became increasingly difficult to stay in university life. And I found my way to NoMAA as a consultant and then as an acting director. And then the pandemic happened. And so that was really very interesting, because I started a new job for me, not in a new field, but really in a field that was taking on a very different kind of shape for me and for what I was used to. And then the world shut down. And I have to say, it was really very interesting, because I was plunged into the Northern Manhattan arts and culture world. And it is a world with so much life, so much love, and so much support. And so actually, it was in many ways as just completely off the rails as it was. It was also really interesting, because I met people, and because of Zoom and because of the way things happen and because of people really needing to come together, I got to meet and talk to a lot of people all at once, and in really kind of deep, meaningful ways, because there was this sort of collective sense that we had such an urgency to do something and to employ the arts as the arts have always been employed, which is during times of trouble, during times of economic collapse. The arts are the eyes and ears of the human experience, not unlike today.
Right.
So it's very interesting to be in kind of this moment as well. So I had a very interesting start. And, the entire stroll, we kind of, Martin, force of nature, it was sort of, and Michelle, and it was sort of the three of us in these trenches, and Joanna, who had been executive director, who was working with us also in these very kind of early months, trying to figure out what we were going to do. And we just went online. We just said, let's just do this. Let's do whatever it is that we have to do. And there was so much support for that. And, Martin, day one, Art Stroll coordinator, for so many years, really just understood also how to kind of take that and just run with it. So had tremendous support all along. And, and then we did what we do. We just support artists, we support arts organizations. that's our mission. Our mission is to do that. So the first stroll was online. The second stroll was kind of mostly online, but that also coincided with a move to the United Palace, and that was really a wonderful opportunity for us because it then really helped us fulfill our mission in a new way. We had our space, we had our home. We ended up having a gallery thanks to the United Palace, which has just been extraordinary. And we have studio space, and we know that artists need space. They need space. They need support. And so, we've been able to do that. To me, the stroll is the kind of public manifestation of all of the things that we do at NoMAA. Right. It is the public declaration that, we are arts, we are culture, we are about partnerships, we are about individual artists, we are about arts organizations, and that's what the stroll is. And it just gets stronger and better every year. And that's a testament to Northern Manhattan. I mean, it really is.
So this is going to be your fifth one, right?
So yeah, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Wait, no, my sixth. It's my sixth, I think.
That's
right?
wow. What can we expect for this Uptown Arts Stroll this year?
Well, I'm gonna just say kind of in general terms, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Martin because he has really been in the trenches with this. But I think what we are seeing, and this feels really good, I think that everyone who's participating in this big umbrella, right, this total arts event that is the stroll, understands the value, the impact, and the importance of art. And so we are standing together, we are standing strong, and I think that it's going to show. It's going to show. And Martin can sort of detail how that is, and I should just sort of kind of give a teaser. We just we just sent to print our Art Stroll guides. Nice. I don't know, Martin, you might want to start there because that has really been exciting to see.
Our stroll guide this year is 72 pages, and it's going to be an extraordinary document when everybody has a chance to read it. This is the front cover of this year's guide.
I love that.
Tom Sanford, West Harlem artist, who crafted the winning image to go on the front cover of all of the collateral for this year's Art Stroll. And in the guide, the 72-page guide this year, you're going to find over 240 events in West Harlem, Washington Heights, and Inwood, some 36 exhibitions, and from small businesses and local not-for-profits, 60 ads. We had a record-setting achievement in ads for this year's guide. And the guide itself has grown substantially over the last decade. In 2015, it was a 28-page guide, and this year, 72. So it's really becoming a true brochure, and it's a real important document because people really want to be in it. They want their exhibitions in there. They want their events in there. There's Harlem walking tours this year, 3 of them, which with Professor John Reddick, which I think people will really enjoy. And the lion's share of the events are free.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm also looking, first of all, shout out to Tom Sanford. I think he's an amazing artist.
Yeah.
I went to his studio a few years ago. I was really impressed by him. He's a really cool guy. So Marlon, tell us the story of the Uptown Arts Stroll, because you've been there from the beginning, right? How did this begin? How did it start? We're here now. We have 72 pages. How did it begin?
It started humbly. It was a one-day event, the Sunday before Thanksgiving of 2003, and it had been.
So it wasn't always in June?
No. It gets to June the next year, and it was a small group of volunteers. There was no budget. It included the Manhattan Times and Mike Fiddleson and Artists Unite and Rosa Napartek and Peter Furco. It included the community board, Ziad Ramadan, who was the chair at the time, myself, who was the economic development and second vice chair, others who really, Homer Young Kennedy, who was a board member and who sadly passed away a year later and was a great loss to our community and to our community board. So it starts off as we would have this event in Washington Heights and Inwood the Sunday before Thanksgiving 2003, and it was a beautiful 75-degree day. We had to ask the board members if they would, those to provide some food and kick in some beverages from their local supermarket and what have you, ask for donations of bevs and so forth. And we had the opening at the board office about midday that Sunday, and it was a packed house. We actually had to pull food back, so we had some for the evening for what was the close. And we had a series of events taking place from 155th to 220th Street throughout that Sunday, culminating in a spoken word event at the board office that evening to close out the first art stroll. And it was a really wonderful, wonderful event, and people really liked it. So when we sat down after the holidays, early 2004, Rosa, Mike Fiddleson, myself, and we did this prior to the Economic Development Committee meetings at the board office. So we would meet at 6, the meeting would be at 7 at the committee, and so we would meet for an hour and plan what the 2004 art stroll would be. And people said, can you move it to June? So we thought about it and we moved it to June. And it was a very, very successful June art stroll. That very first June art stroll, the opening was at the Highbridge Park Water Tower. And
Wow.
that was a very warm evening. And I can remember Hot 97 being there, other television stations as well, Telemundo and others. And we had a lot of press coverage. And about, I would say, 600 people turned up to the opening reception that evening. They were inside where they could fit, and they were outside. The pool had been drained at Highbridge Park because at 9 p.m. at dusk that night, the Rucci brothers launched fireworks out of the pool into the Harlem River.
Wow.
And
That's
we
amazing.
we had every city agency up there in the days, weeks leading up to it to give the necessary sign-offs. I didn't know there were certain agencies that needed to be signing off on all this, but it seemed like every municipal service was there. And I wasn't watching, but at that time, it was Ken Singleton and Jim Cott and whoever else announcing the Yankee games. And there was this in the broadcast that evening on whatever station the Yankees were on. There was a pause, and they were looking out going, my, they're having some party over there on the other side of the Harlem River. We forgot to
That is
notify
hilarious.
the Yankees that this is going to be blasting into the Harlem River, and they could see it from their perch. But it was a wonderful event. From there, the early years, the guide was an insert in the Manhattan Times, and you would pick up the Manhattan Times, and instead of, this is last year's Art Stroll guide, and this would be inside the paper itself. And it's the only bilingual newspaper at this time that publishes local news here in northern Manhattan, and it's been around for 25 years. The stroll then grew, and each year it got bigger and bigger. It went to about 2 weeks by 2007, and Mike, myself, Rosa, others, we reached a precipice where we said, this is becoming too big for a small group of volunteers to put on, and this has to be institutionalized. And then in comes NoMAA, and they've carried the baton ever since, and done an extraordinary job of building it out into now a month-long event and a program that expanded in 2015 to capture West Harlem from 125th Street to 155th Street. So the stroll now goes all the way from West 125th to 220th Street, and the buy-in from all three neighborhoods is extraordinary.
In fact, I think what's interesting is that the stroll predates the founding of NoMAA. And in fact, NoMAA is founded to sort of shepherd the art stroll, because it was very clear that the art stroll was something that was going to be much bigger than was originally thought, needed an organization to really take the stroll on, and then to do all of the other things that the stroll heralds. And that is to bring organizations together, to form these partnerships, to have an opportunity for artists to showcase the work that they do daily. And so it's very interesting because the stroll's been around longer than NoMAA.
It's funny because I never knew that. Right? I always thought they were this, kind of neck and neck, because it's funny. Like I feel like they share DNA, right? Because the Uptown Arts Stroll to me just feels like it was an outgrowth of NoMAA. Because what I love about NoMAA is that, and the Uptown Arts Stroll is that it incorporates everybody, right? Even the poster contest. Here, shoot your shot, right? Let's see if you could get in here. And I love that it incorporates the artists, and as well, like you have the Andrea Arroyos, right, who come along this path. You have the Rose Dellers, right? But then you have the new person, right? And I always felt like that was the beauty, is when that new person first sees their artwork on the wall, and that the beauty of that, you can see it in their pictures, how proud they are. They got their parents, their children. And can you talk about that, like that kind of inclusive spirit that NoMAA and the Uptown Arts Stroll always had.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, because sort of to your point, when I started, you know, I had to try and figure out what an arts service organization does. And then I had to figure out what this enormous event was, this flagship event that everybody knew about, people participated in. It was such an important event, and I struggled trying to understand exactly what it was, because in a lot of ways it's a phenomenon. It really is in that way, because there's so much investment on so many levels. And I should also say, it's not even just artists and arts organizations, it's how artists and arts organizations intersect with the rest of the community, intersect with daily life, intersect with businesses. And so it really is a total event. So this year, it was funny. Last year I said, to your point, because there's so many new people, and we know that because at our exhibitions we had so many new artists, so many young artists. I mean, we really, on our walls in our gallery, we'll have artists in their early 20s, and we'll have artists, inching to their 80s. And so that's been really beautiful. So it's emerging artists and established artists. But I told Martin last year, I said, you know what we don't have on the front of the guide? And he said, what? I said, the word guide.
That's true.
We didn't put the word guide, and it occurred to me, because we have a longtime supporter who said to me that she was at the Met and she had her guide out and she was reading it, and she was kind of reading it on purpose to sort of,
like flaunt. Yeah.
She was kind of flaunting it, and she wanted to kind of encourage questions. And sure enough, somebody said, what is that? And she said, oh, this. And she just began explaining what it was. And it occurred to me, the word guide isn't on it. It's almost this thing that we do. It is something that the rest of the city, is starting to know about, should know about, the rest of the country. I mean, this is something that is so ours, but and that is extraordinary. But also we should share it, because boy, is it extraordinary, so it's one of those things. So that's kind of a funny thing that, all of these years, and, we should say, hey, this is your handbook to all the things that you can do through the month of June.
Yeah, and it's funny because Martin, I really like the way that thing that we do, right? Because it is an uptown thing, like in a certain way, right? Like, because it's not just the artists, it's the families and the businesses, the people that contribute. It's just all around. And again, it over the years you've seen it grow, right? Where you have the older artists, the younger artists. It's very few places where you can have all these people in one room. Right, and that's super special. Martin, what do you think contributes to that specialness, that thing that we do?
I think the art stroll started small, and it built and has become this crescendo, which has, I think, pulled in an extraordinary interest and level of buy-in from community buy-in from artists, arts organizations, community-based groups, and small businesses, and the number of businesses that participate in the stroll. You look at a place like Patrick's on the Hill on Amsterdam and 141st Street, the events that they will have during the stroll, and at two neighboring locations in West Harlem this year. You look at a place like Unique Coffee up in Inwood and the extraordinary programming that she does there, from the wall, the artists, the exhibits that she has with multiple artists, open mics. She hosts theater groups and spoken word programs. You look at places here like Kismet in Washington Heights that has music 4 nights a week. You look at Leyva and their gallery room, which is curated by Lily 11, who lives here in the neighborhood. And then there's music every weekend and during the week at Leyva as well. And so the level of buy-in and the involvement of businesses in the performing and visual arts has built each and every passing year over the past 23 years.
You know what I find exciting as well is that there's always like a prelude to the Uptown Arts Stroll, right? So last year you had Emmett Cohen, that dude I've never seen anyone play a piano like that. Octavio, he'll put his hand in the piano and he's plucking the actual pianos, not the keys, and he's in there playing it that way. So I'm excited for this concert. Why? I get that it's so big. Why doing a prelude? Is that like an appetizer or something?
Well, I'm going to let Niria. Niria was the mastermind of the pre-stroll concert, so I'm going to hand this over to Niria.
It turns out a month isn't enough,
Yeah, yeah.
So I think, it was one of these things. We had a wonderful opportunity to really just feature a wonderful artist, and he was so excited to participate, and we worked closely with the Harlem School of the Arts, and we have supported their summer arts programs as well. And it really just, again, it was just sort of this beautiful coming together. Here was an opportunity to have somebody kind of, just ring the bell. Here we go.
Right.
The stroll is coming, and this is a little teaser for
Yeah.
what we have in store. And so it's become, I guess, it's our fourth year now doing it. And last year we also had Miguel Senon, who joined Emmett Cohen, and that, talk about two powerhouses in a room.
He's a Grammy Award
Yeah,
winner.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was really, it's almost an embarrassment of riches. And so, you had these extraordinary artists, and I just think, again, a month doesn't feel like enough. Sometimes, because there's that much going on. And I think what's also important too is, and this kind of is what you were saying, Led, too, you're new to the neighborhood and you've got something great, you're in. This is for everyone. So as more people come to the neighborhood, and as more people bring something to the arts, and they continue to do so, the greater and the bigger the stroll is. It really is. That's how
Yeah, Led, I want to
turned
ask.
out to be.
I want to ask
Right.
Niria a little bit about. We don't live in a vacuum. So I think it's amazing what you've done. That what NoMAA is doing. I think it's so important to shed light on the local art scene and our local artists. But again, we're not living in a vacuum. What's the interplay with the global art scene, for example, or even like the many museums and other cultural institutions and galleries that are located throughout the city, and downtown has seen a huge explosion in galleries. I wonder, is there a symbiotic relationship, or are we doing just our own thing?
That's a great question. I think it's important to do more than one thing at the same time. I think in as much as we are a resource for Northern Manhattan, but also a stage for Northern Manhattan, it's also wonderful when all of that we have here can make connections everywhere else. And so we have artists, who are showing in galleries in downtown. We have relationships with museums, with the cloisters, for example. We have relationships with the Hispanic Society. They are really important partners to us. We work with them. And in fact, this will be our third year of our Artists on the Audubon Terrace. It's a project that we've been doing for the last 3 years. It's really been a wonderful opportunity to bring our institutions together. So I think we are always looking for those opportunities. Morris Jamel, for example, where we're going to have our closing this year. But I think we learned this during COVID. And I think COVID really taught us a very important lesson. And that is, and it sounds, and I don't want to, it sounds a little trite when you say it, but it's actually really true. We are all stronger when we come together, when we share resources,
Yep.
when we share brain energy. We just are. The more we do, the more we do. And I think that
I like that.
that, to me, that is really the goal, is to do that, especially now. There is such an urgency right now to really stand up and to be strong in our voices, in our commitment to making clear that arts are woven into the fabric of our beings. Period. I mean,
Period. Yep.
period. There's no, and so I think that I also feel this year it's been very interesting, because going into this year, I was very nervous. In the fall, I was very nervous about what this year was going to look like, and I'm still nervous. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm not.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm even more concerned if that's possible. But what I am seeing is so much desire, and there's so there's almost a defiance right now
Love that.
in the support for the arts. And that has been really important. And that has been really gratifying. And that gives me a lot of hope because people have sort of looked to arts organizations and looked to artists and said, what are we doing? And when artists say, we're going forward, as we have always done in
Right.
history, the artist is always, the avant-garde, they are always on the front lines. It's always been the case. And so there's something I think exciting and galvanizing when people can look to the arts and say, what are we going? We'll follow. We'll stand with you. And I feel a little bit of that energy.
Mm.
And so that's been nice. It doesn't take away from the understanding that we are vulnerable. We're always kind of vulnerable.
Right.
We're even more vulnerable now. And so
And what
it's
you
a
said
scary
is so
time.
interesting that
It is.
these arts organizations like yours are vulnerable and are being threatened, but it's also so important to recognize that people want to help, that they want to stand up, they want to push back. So that's so important to communicate with our audience. How can they help? How can they be a part of it? Because I don't know if everybody really understands that you can become a member of NoMAA and you can get a lot of benefits as a NoMAA member, whether you're an artist or not. So for our audience who's watching this and is pissed off, frankly, about what's going on and really wants to stand up and say something and do something, beyond attending the arts stroll and participating in all the wonderful events, how can they be a part of supporting our local arts right now?
Thank you for that question. So it's I really appreciate it. We're a membership organization, and the work that we do and the programs that we offer are free and they're open to the public. But in order to do that, we do need support. And so and I think what's important is to understand that any contribution, whether you are showing up, whether you're coming to our events, whether you're becoming a member and you're paying your annual dues, and then you come to our member events that are free, whether you rent our studios, we have studios that are available at really nominal fees. That is the buy-in. I think that buy-in is so important. And I think for us, that can be you can achieve that in so many different ways, but it matters because the work that we do and the work that we want to do is we want to be able to provide stipends to our individual artists. We want to be able to provide space for artists to work in at fees that they can pay without it being incredibly difficult for them to support themselves. We want them to live and work here. We want to be able to do that. And so in order to do that, we need support. So yes, I think our membership program, which we've really grown. We have a membership coordinator, Anthony Rojas, who is working to really build our membership base. But I think overall, and sort of to your point, is the stronger we are as an organization, the more of us, right? The greater the statement, the greater the hope for sustainability, and the more that we can continue to have artists work and live. I want to stress that we are one of the few communities that still exist in New York City where artists can live and work.
That's a good point.
They can take in an exhibition, they can work in there, they can live and work here. And we want to continue to be able to do that.
To that point, love that you guys keep expanding the offerings, right? And I love NoMAA Studios because I think it's in our neighborhood. We never had something like that where you have a place in your community to do dance, photography, right? You have a state of the art photography studio as well. Like, how did that come about, the NoMAA Studios?
Well, I think a couple. I mean, I think moving to the Palace for us was really extraordinary. And this is something that I know our chair, Luis Miranda, has really envisioned for a long time. And we in the palace, we have found, brain partners. Technically there are landlords, but everyone should have a landlord like
Yep.
that. They are really interested in the work that we do, and it matters to them too. They are a palace, but they are the people's palace.
Yeah.
And so I think we have a very good synergy, because we can really do many things in that space, activating all of the spaces. So when we moved there and we saw these studios, we realized that, one of the things I think that artists say all the time is that they could use financial support, stipends. But even more than that, they need space. That's the canvas, that's the dance floor. They need space. So having an opportunity to provide space to local artists and arts organizations has meant everything. And I think
Yeah.
it has allowed us to really expand our programming and to really think big. I think that's part of this. Arts organizations, by their nature, are creative organisms. So, it's what's next? What do people want? What do they need? We have a lot of photographers. They're coming to the studios.
Mhm.
What do we do? Well, let's outfit one of the studios so that photographers can use it. We're looking into, how we can have better mirrors in the space, because the creative world, it will help us determine what our next steps are. I mean, that's really why we're there. Right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why we're there.
And I like the fact that you guys don't rest on your laurels, right? Because the NoMAA gallery, every time I go, it looks a little different, a little better, right? It's like, oh, what, this space is evolving. And I feel that for everything, right? I feel like every time I go to a NoMAA exhibit, it gets better, more packed than the last time, and more diversity of people there. And one thing I really want to talk about real quickly is I love the fact that Harlem is included, right? So Uptown United, right? It's not just a Heights thing. It's not just an inward thing. I think that's important because I think you see it there. You see the Harlem artists come out, and they're just like we are Uptown, like we are this unit, and I love that's a part of it. How did you make that decision to include Harlem?
And how is Harlem reacting to being included? Because I mean, Harlem has a very strong independent sort of identity. So
The expansion to West Harlem predates me. But last year, we extended the stroll down to 125th Street. And that had not been the case until last year. And that was just it's natural. I mean, I think at the end of the day, and sort of, Octavio, Harlem is the center, right, of arts, and it has been for decades and decades. And it's a very, and actually, I say decades, but it's really been like 100 years. I forget that we're in 2025. So, but I think what's really important is, I think that if you, and again, it's always a little complicated. There are always complications. But I think if you establish partnerships, and we've worked with the West Harlem Development Corporation, and we're working also now with the West Harlem Arts Alliance, I think it's really important to come together and have conversations. And you're not always going to make the right moves, and you're not always going to please everybody. And I think that's kind of in general. But I think having conversations and leading with similar visions, right? What is, and I tried to do that. What is our goal? What is our job? My job at NoMAA, our job at NoMAA, is to support, to cultivate, and to promote artists and arts organizations in West Harlem, Washington Heights, and Inwood.
yeah,
So we lead with that.
to me, it sounds like building bridges and healthy competition all go hand in hand, sharing resources, sharing ideas, and also sharing, secrets of how do you get this and that done are really really good, because every organization, I'm sure, has had their own evolution, and they can tell you, oh, this is how we took care of that when we ran into this problem, and this is how we did this when we ran into that problem. And hopefully culturally, the cultural aspect of our differences are also, as long as we're respecting each other and giving each other the ability to take up space, it's all for the good.
That's right.
Yes, we began in 2015. We expanded south to 125th Street. Initially, it was from the Edgecombe St. Nick corridor west of the Hudson. Now this year, it's anything that's west 125th Street to 155th Street, and we've seen more involvement from businesses, artists, and we can certainly see again in this year's guide greater enthusiasm from small businesses and community groups in the guide that will be, again, 72 pages this year.
So tell me, how do I get connected? What are the nuts and bolts for our viewership and our viewers? Like, they want to come to the opening reception. They want to become members of NoMAA. How do they do that? What are the nuts and bolts?
Well, the great way is to, we have a free newsletter. It comes out every week. That's one way to get connected and stay on top of what NoMAA is doing, and many of our partner organizations in the West Harlem, Washington Heights, and Inwood community. What artists are doing, we have an artist spotlight. That's an almost weekly showcase of what an artist is doing in Upper Manhattan and their latest exhibitions, and what they're doing to expand their portfolios. Another way to get involved is become a NoMAA member. It's tax deductible, $50 a year. And getting a NoMAA membership is easy. You can do that right on the website from the homepage. And you are invited to a number of member-only events and to opportunities that NoMAA members receive in terms of perks and access to merchandise that we'll have. And various times of the year we may have a discounted merch for members and so forth. There's end of the year and mid-year activities for NoMAA members as well. You get a lot of value from that $50 membership. And you'll also get some really attractive opportunities to participate in events here that are members-only events here in the NoMAA gallery.
Just want to highlight that it's, everything being relative and everybody's finances being what they are, but $50 is a relatively inexpensive entree into becoming really involved with the arts and being fully informed with what's going on. You were saying that sometimes, our local artists are exhibiting downtown, and you'll get alerted to that as a NoMAA member, so that you can support them and their art when they do exhibit in places that are not necessarily, Washington Heights.
I would say that's really important to us too, that artists understand that wherever they're exhibiting, wherever they go, they're part of NoMAA, right? If they're in Northern Manhattan, they don't have to just be doing remarkable things in Northern Manhattan, though that's wonderful. But if they're doing things everywhere else and anywhere else, we want to know about it, because we are excited that we are connected to these artists, and these artists are connected to us. So it's not, it's not just a membership that you you're a member and then you kind of go on and you do other things. And
Mm-hmm.
No, we are connected, because we've all done something pretty amazing here. Right? We've been part of something that has created an incredible landscape, and so. You've been part of that landscape, and you go do amazing things. We are going to champion you,
Yeah.
and we're gonna and Led is going to put it on Instagram, and
Yeah.
we're gonna, and that's important too, because we have an active Instagram page, and it's really a good way to stay connected. So we try to connect in a variety of ways, right? We have our website. I still believe in the traditional website. I think it's important. I think it's a great way for people to say, oh, this is where kind of everything lives. So we have our website. On our website, you can join and get our newsletter, and we have about 4,000 people, over 4,000 people who
Mm-hmm.
get our newsletter every week. We have our social media, our Instagram, and that's really important to us too, for people to connect in that way. And then Martin does a lot of just, door to door, business to business. He's talking to people. He's in the community. So we try to, hit on all fronts, because we understand that we are dealing, with a multi-generational kind of population, and that's important to us. It really is important to us to have that entire kind of, breadth of participation.
You have
And
a
it's
number
funny.
of
Go ahead, Martin. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
who are members and who folks like Andrea Arroyo, Gary Grant, Rose Delar, Annette A. Aguilar, who perform all over the place, all over this country. And in the case of Andrea Arroyo, her exhibits have been shown all over museums all over the world. And so,
Yeah,
we
she was in Istanbul. Istanbul. Yeah, exactly. Not too long ago, so I saw that.
And so they get mentioned in our newsletter, in our membership, in our member spotlight, artist spotlight, and in our newsletters and in our social media. So it's an opportunity to show the great work that they're doing, not just here in Upper Manhattan, but throughout the country and the world.
I'm excited. I have to say, I'm an honoree this year, so there's like a super big deal for me. You know what I mean? So I'm super honored to be a NoMAA honoree. This means the world to me. So thank you, Niria. I really can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me. Really, I'm being honest. The Moth, which is one of those things that was life changing. That was because of you. So thank you for always looking out, and I'm super honored to be an honoree this year.
Well,
We
we
want to tell
are
you that the
thrilled.
honorees are Vosa Rivers, the great Vosa Rivers, New Heritage Theater
Yep,
Group. He's retiring after 60 years.
yep,
Carlos
yep. And
Perez, great artist from the Heights. The Led Black. You also have
The Lead Black, that's right.
Danny Bonilla and the Riverside Inwood Neighborhood Garden and the Ring Garden. They have art in the garden, and they've been doing it since 2001.
Wow.
So we're on Jeff Hoppe, who is an outstanding individual artist, and the 16 artist collective that make up Cornerstone Studios on Bennett Avenue and 189th Street. We're also honoring the Hispanic Federation, who helped NoMAA when it started back in 2007, and basically they incubated us until we went solo in 2011. And Telemundo, who has covered Art Stroll events, NoMAA events for many years, and has been a partner and is again a partner in 2025. So those are our 7 honorees who will be recognized by our board chair, Luis A. Miranda Jr., and Niria, and the entire community at the opening reception on Friday, May 30th from 6 to 8:30 at the Sugar Hill Museum on 155th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. We'll have some wonderful food and drinks that evening and some great music and a wonderful time for everybody who shows up.
Six
Friday, May
to
30th.
question mark or 6 to 8:30? We'll see.
6 to 8?
No question
That's
mark.
it? Okay,
6 to 8:30.
6 to 8:30.
Stick to the script.
And then there's just a bevy of events and exhibitions and open studios that take place after that. And we'll have, weather permitting, the closing will be on Monday, June 30th at the Morris Jamel Mansion on on Jamel Terrace, Jamel Place, between 160th and 162nd Street. And we'll have music that evening from Will Glass, his trio, Lexiglass featuring Sweet Lee, and some food from our local restaurants. And you'll also have an opportunity that evening up till 8 p.m. The closing will go from 6 to 9 p.m. on June 30th, but the museum at Morris Jamel and their new exhibit, which debuts on Saturday, June 14th, will be available for anybody to view until 8 p.m. that evening.
There are also a lot of things that happen that are really kind of fun. Like there are, lots of collectives. There are kind of impromptu collectives where you'll have artists saying, hey, are you going to have an open studio? Great. So am I. Let's get together. And so all of a sudden you'll have 5 artists getting together to do it. And I love that matchmaking component.
Yeah. Right.
Just putting people together, and I think that because we are multidisciplinary, we're able to do that. We're able to sort of, bring people together who may have not, thought about working together. And that kind of happens at every stroll, where you'll see somebody just sort of saying, hey, we had this idea. We're going to do something together. And that's always really nice.
To piggyback on that point, you have the Children's Art Carnival and Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano, while the latter's home on 145th Street between Broadway and Riverside Drive undergoes repair. Children's Art Carnival is home to Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano, and they are working together on a number of programs throughout the year and during the June Art Stroll this year. You have the Hamilton Heights Darkroom, which has a large number of artists of all ages, and they have a number of events coming up also this year with the Hamilton Landmarks Gallery and also at the Children's Art Carnival. Up further here in the neighborhood, you have the Cornerstone Studios. This is the 10th year that they will be doing their open studios. You'll be able to go in and see art on 3 floors at 109th and Bennett Avenue. And there'll be also an auction of artwork as well for helping the Church of Our Savior's Atonement make some necessary repairs to its building. And there's a lot of other partnerships going on. You have a number of artists that will be opening their home studios, their professional studios this year. Not as many as in years past, but we have places such as Buny Coffee, Word Up Community Bookstore, Recirculation, again, the aforementioned Children's Art Carnival, and Hamilton Heights Darkroom and Hamilton Landmark Galleries, who are hosting multiple
I want to
artists.
say, but before you get into this, Led, but I just want to say that I think is a really interesting and I think positive message, that we see the buy-in from the community businesses and also burgeoning community cultural organizations like Word Up Books. These are all places that have been fighting to be here, and they're still here. And the fact that they're partnering up and getting exposure, I think, is such a wonderful thing that NoMAA is able to sort of like coordinate. So, I think it's great. I think that it's just the beginning. I think that that this is just a wonderful event, and I really commend you for the work. Martin, I know you've been there since day one. Niria, at dealing with the tremendous challenges of COVID and being here and doing this, and Led, me and Led are getting this podcast underway. You're our first guests, and we're so excited. And I personally am also a fan of the Led Black, and so I am so happy that I've been wanting to work with the Led Black for many years, and so we finally got ourselves the project that we. So I just wanted to throw that in there, but Led, before I let you take over.
Yeah, no, so I just want you guys to speak about the merch, because I think merch is important. And I also feel like that, it's the spirit of collaboration, right? That NoMAA really is this kind of umbrella for us, right? That protects us, but also, brings us together, right? Like, and I love that. I love that feeling that like people like Andrea. Andrea doesn't act like she's this amazing artist that travels the world. She acts like, let me help. Like when I did my first, the Gram Uptown, right? She was there putting in pictures. She was the one that came up with that. How are we going to do this? And then Niria said, oh, no, do this. We did that together, right? And I think that spirit of collaboration, of togetherness, I think is more important now than ever, right? We have enemies at the federal level, and we only have us. And I think this is more important than ever. So I think maybe that's a good way to end. Talk about the merch and talk about what do we do now? Like, where do we go from here, and why this is so important?
Well, I mean, the merch is it's exciting, right? Because we have, if you think about it, the amount of the designs that we have, the original designs that we get every single year through our poster contest, the amount of sort of the creative power in the images that we actually have at NoMAA is, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find those in any kind of design shop. So for us, really being able to create merchandise around, for example, our poster contest, Tom's image this year is so dynamic.
Vibrant. It is vibrant.
So it's just, I'm so excited about it. I mean, we're using hot pink as a color, it's because it's in the image, and it feels so good, and it looks so good on sweatshirts and t-shirts. So we're building our shop, and what I'd like to do is eventually expand our shop to feature the work of so many of the artists who who have submitted designs. To do a series, to do a limited edition of,
No, exciting.
poster submissions from this year to this year. I mean, we really have so much material to mine. So
Mm,
that is really something that we're thinking about in terms of building that shop. So we have a few ideas of some fun things we might do this year in terms of our merch. But already, I think the design people are really getting excited. We have a lot of the merch available at the film series, the Lin-Manuel Miranda film series at the Palace. So we have a little table up on the second floor that we're selling merch, and people are excited about it. So yeah, I think that's an area where we want to do more, because people should see these amazing images. I mean, they really are fantastic, and like I said, it's original art. It's all original, and so that's been really exciting. I also wanted to say, it is a little bit of a full circle moment for me. Like, we started this conversation talking about how I came to this position, but it's also very interesting for me because I have very, very deep roots in Washington Heights, and in fact,
right.
just around the Palace, my entire family came in the 60s, settled in Washington Heights. My grandparents had a photography studio for 45 years on 173rd and St. Nicholas. They lived on 100 and Wadsworth. I walked in front of that palace as a young girl all the time and asked, what is this? What is this? This is so cool. This is so cool. So my cousins had a shoe store. My other uncle had a butcher shop. My whole neighborhood was, 173rd to 178th. And then I had an uncle who lived on Nagel, and then I lived in Inwood myself. But for me, to be steps away from where my grandparents were so many years
Wow.
ago, is I couldn't have scripted this. It's such an interesting full circle moment for me to be in this palace doing this kind of work in this neighborhood that my entire family was so connected to for decades. It's pretty amazing. So it's really very nice for me.
That is very beautiful. That means
Yeah.
you belong there, right? Like you're supposed to be there,
Yeah,
right?
that's how I
Yeah,
felt. Yeah,
yeah.
just circumstances and just things and led me there, and it's true. It's like I woke up one morning and I was like, this is where I was supposed to be. Wow, this is fantastic. And I think about them all the time, and I think, gosh, if they were still around, I could have snuck out of the office and gone and have lunch with them. So that
Two
was
blocks
a
away,
little
right?
right. So it was a little bittersweet, but still, Martin and I, we were down at Morris Jamel the other day, and we were walking back, and I always said, can we walk up 173rd? Because I like to walk by their building. So it's very sweet.
That's beautiful. It's fucking funny because I actually grew up on Wadsworth as well. So the mom still has an apartment on the 190s in Wadsworth. So it's interesting. And again, I think like that full circle moment is so poignant, right? 'Cause I remember you did a post, we put it on social, and
Yeah.
these beautiful black and white pictures, of your family, and it really, I think I hate to sound corny, but this is meant to be, right? This work, the fact that you're there, the fact that Martin is there, the fact that Michelle, the fact that all of us, right? This is community at its best. I saw an influencer today on Instagram. I think her name is Shanika Malcolm, and she says, "Let community be your currency." And I was like, "Oh, that is so powerful, right?" Because that, at the end of the day, is all we have. All we have is us, and the more we look out, the better. So I want to thank you personally, but as a community, Niria and Martin, thank you for standing up for us. And I'm so excited what comes next. I think there's going to be more and more coming next. So, any final words you want to leave us with?
Thank you. And thank you for doing this. I think this is so exciting. I'm, as I said, so honored that we are your first guest. And I'm also honored that you are our honoree. I mean, it's
Thank
just
you.
truly, I think that you are such a strong ambassador for all of us, for all that we do and what you do all the time
Thank you.
in so many ways. And so it really does mean so much to us that you'll be with us, that we get to honor you.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I look forward to always collaborating in
Likewise.
many ways.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Niria. Thank you so much. And thank you for bearing with us. This is our first episode. We still don't know what we're doing. We're still
You're
learning.
doing a great job. This is going to be great. I can feel it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Octavio, you have anything you want to say, brother?
Thank you, Niria. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Led. Yeah, stay tuned, and we'll have more for you. So I guess we're going to sign off now. I'm not sure how to do it. How do we sign off? We just say goodbye, right? Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna need a we're gonna get a little like a sign off bump out kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That like the
Black and
Blanco thing. I think you can work with
Black
that.
and Blanco, I like that. Black and Blanco.
It.
Yeah,
I like it.
It has a ring to it. It has a ring to it.
I like it, and it can mean so many things. I kind of like it. Yeah, maybe you should go with that.
Yeah, for sure.
It was great to meet you, Octavio. I appreciate it. I really do. It was wonderful.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of Uptown Voices, brought to you by 181 Cabrini, your neighborhood bistro just steps away from the North Walk of the George Washington Bridge. Use the code Uptown Voices Season 1 for your discount. And to stay up to date on the latest in Uptown, you can follow Uptown Collective on Instagram, Facebook, and X. If you're watching Uptown Voices on YouTube, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and to give us a like. And don't forget, we also need financial contributions from listeners like you to produce, improve, and expand our content. To contribute, please scan the QR code on the screen or visit www.livingamericana.com. That's living without a G. Until next time, this has been Uptown Voices.